Good evening, good evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good evening. Thank you for joining. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Don't hesitate to invite your friends on tonight. This is going to be a very impersonal and comfortable conversation. Good evening, good evening. Don't forget to invite your friends. Just take a few minutes and invite your friends on. We're going to talk tonight and have a real life conversation. Please share, share, share. Share, share, share. Good evening. Hey, Pastor K. Hey, Sister Ty. Kenyatta. Hey. Listen, I am excited about tonight. This is, in my opinion, long overdue, but I've been trying to get it all done. So I'm excited about this topic so that we can bring some help and some clarity and some insight to the subject of grief. Just a real life conversation. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to ask that you take a few minutes to invite your friends. Hey, Sharon. Invite your friends, invite your family, anybody that you know that is dealing with grief, even those that you think will possibly, I don't want to bother them. That's the person that you should invite, because what you may not be able to say, they may be able to hear it from somebody else. So please take a few minutes to share and invite your friends, share the link. This video is available for those that aren't even on Facebook. If you would take a moment and copy the link and send it in a text, send it in a inbox. If they click the link, they will be able to get on to talk tonight. And if you would like to send some questions, you have questions, you're welcome to send a text to 804-464-7815, and we'll try to address all the questions. I'm hoping that we can get through these keys tonight. If not, I might do this again next week. We'll see what happens. But tonight, I'm just excited about everybody that's joining, because I want this to be a time of healing, a beginning process of healing, dealing with grief and loss, because sometimes we don't have a platform to talk and share. And I'm not an expert on the subject of grief, but I have had some life experience that kind of has helped me along the way to deal with the things in my life and deal with what has happened and what has come. So I'm excited to be able to share. So please take a few minutes and share with your families. I'm going to start in just a few minutes, but welcome to those that are just joining us. This is a real conversation about grief tonight. The number again is 804-464-7815. If you want to send a question, it's in the description of of this live. But again, if you have a question that you want answered or something you might want us to discuss, drop it in the text message. It's 804-464-7815. We're going to start in about 2 more minutes, because I don't want to hold up your night, but I want to start by giving us some things to think about, some things to share, some things to help us in the process of grief during this holiday time. Oftentimes, this is the hardest part when you've lost a loved one or lost someone that is dear to you, even unexpectedly, or you knew they were going to pass. It is a hard thing to go through. And sometimes you just need somebody. Good evening, Apostle Wilson. We know that we just need sometimes some help in processing. So again, I'm going to ask that you would share this tonight. I want to be a safe place for those that are dealing with grief, to provide some insight, to provide some thoughts and some questions and some help. So I am going to get started on tonight. I'm not going to hold you. I got about 5 keys that I want to give you tonight to help in this process. My name is Dr. DeAnna Morris. I am the founder of Life Seeds Coaching and Developing Firm, which is one aspect of one of the businesses that I have. And under Life Seeds, one of the things that I do is I provide coaching and development in various areas to help people to grow and to develop. We believe at Life Seeds that every seed that's planted grows, whether that's a good seed or a bad seed. No matter what it is, it's going to grow. So I'm excited tonight to share. This is a real life conversation about dealing with grief. So let me give you a little bit of my background. Hey, CT, good to see you. Listen, I want to state this again. I am not an expert on grief. What I am is a woman that has experienced some very traumatic losses over the last, I will say this, over the last 7 years. I have experienced a great amount of loss. Some was unexpected. Some was, I went through the process, and it wasn't, you just will never be prepared for losing someone. That's just the bottom line of it. So tonight, I want to give a little backdrop of what has happened over the last 7 years. Beginning in 2007, I was going through a sickness, and I had a heart attack. And in the process of them scanning my heart, they found kidney cancer. Some of y'all know a part of this story. And when I was released from the hospital a few days later, I contacted my brother to share what had happened to me. And he said to me, no matter what, we'll be there. I'll be there every step of the way. If you need chemo, blah, 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 blah. He was just like very supportive. He was the first person that I told. I think I told him before I told my husband at the time. And upon telling him that, I had to go back to the doctor, and they began to tell me that I did confirm that it was cancer. And in the instance, my brother's like, I'm going to be there. Everything's going to be fine, da, 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 da. And 9 days later, my 40-year-old brother died unexpectedly. I received a call in the middle of the night saying he was unresponsive. He was my best friend. He was my 7 a.m. call in the morning and my 5 p.m. call in the afternoon, because that's when he called me on his way to work and on his way home from work. So I was, needless to say, devastated, because who expects their 40-year-old brother that you just got off the phone talking to a couple of hours earlier to pass away unexpectedly? Surely not me. And I went through that process. Just all my thoughts was to make sure everybody else was okay. But remember, I was sick already anyway. And then 3 months later, my mentor, who I talked to in between talking to my brother, passed unexpectedly, which was my pastor. She was sick, but I did not expect her to transition as quickly as she did. And I was not prepared, because in less than 3 months, I lost my best friend and my mentor. And who does that leave for me to talk to get answers, to get clarity? It was a very devastating time. But in that process, I did not grieve. I began to build, and I'm going to create legacy, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. But I did not stop to grieve, because I had never experienced anything like that, and I didn't know what the grief process looked like or what grief should be. And as it was exactly a year and a half later, I want y'all to hear me very clearly. A year and a half later, I was laying on the couch, minding my own business, felt like I was fine, nothing going on major. And I just had this thought, who can I call? And I fell completely apart. It was hours of crying and weeping, and I'm like, what is happening to me? What is going on? What is this feeling? It literally felt like somebody took a scab off of me that I did not know was there, and I didn't know what to do with it. And I cried and I cried and I cried, and it literally came to a point that I realized that, because I remember saying, I miss my brother. I miss my pastor. I just, who can I talk to? And it was the first time that I had said it out of my mouth, a year and a half later, before I began to grieve over such a major loss. And that happened. And then in the process, I took over a church, and several members in the church passed right after I took over. And then a year later, my dad, who was my everything, unexpectedly passed. And I'm like, God, what is this? By the time my dad had passed, I was seeking help, but I didn't quite know what the help was supposed to look like. I had gone to counseling, and I said, this is not working. I ain't going back. And I didn't. But when my dad passed, my doctor who really, really knew me sent a message and said, I need you to go to counseling. Find somebody that will work for you and go to counseling. And I did. And the strange thing is, when I went to counseling, thinking that I was going to counseling about losing my dad, I really ended up talking about my brother, my mentor, and all these other people. And it was not the same. The grief that I had for my father was not the same that I had experienced before, because I knew my dad was sick. I knew there was a time coming that he was not going to be here. So it was a different kind of grief, because when you have traumatic losses that they just come unexpectedly, that's a different kind of grief, because you haven't processed in your mind that there's a possibility that this person is not going to be here. With my dad, it was a little different, because I knew my dad was older. I knew he had health issues. So somewhere in my mind, I was like, Dad, he might not be here. And I was getting there. So it was a loss, but it wasn't the same kind of loss. And so that was 2019. So, in between a lot of other losses. But in 2020, 3 days before Christmas, my late husband, Apostle Mercier Morris, has a stomach ache. He goes to the hospital. He wants to get his stomach checked. He goes to the hospital. And while we're in the doctor's office, I am looking at his medical chart before the doctor even comes in. I'm like, this doesn't look good. And they tell us that he has stage 4 liver cancer. And they tell us in the doctor's office, we're just going to send you to the specialist. So we're like, okay, we go to the specialist, and the specialist tells us that he has 6 months to live. And I'm like, wait a minute. Not this man. Not the man that takes care of me. And I'm the one that's sick, not him. And in this process, he survived for 9 months. So he made it past the 6 months, because I wanted the doctors to be wrong. And they were wrong, because he lived his life for 6 months the way he wanted to live it. But that loss was completely different than anything I had ever experienced. And the reason why it was different was because we had an opportunity to prepare for him to go. And somebody said, I don't even know what that means. And those that were around me during that time when he passed, I kept saying, I'm okay. And people just could not believe, how can she be okay? Is she really okay? And I'm going to say this, and this will sound strange to some people, and I'm going into this, giving you some background before I begin to give you some keys. The reason this will sound strange to you is because we don't do this. When I found out that he had cancer, we didn't foresee him passing, because we thought that God was going to heal him. We thought that there was going to be treatment. And when we found out that there wasn't, he began to tell me, I'm going to live the way that I want to live. I'm going to accomplish everything that I want to accomplish. I'm going to do everything that I have to do while I'm alive. I'm not going to stop preaching. I'm not going to stop living. Whatever I can do, I'm going to do it. And I was just like in total agreement. Whatever you want to do, that's what we're going to do. But the other component of that was we had an opportunity, catch this, to grieve together. Before he left, we had the opportunity to talk about all kinds of things. And we would talk to each other, and he would say stuff like, I'm going to miss you when I'm gone. And I was like, how you know you're going to miss me? You're not going to be here. But it gave me a chance to verbally say those things that I didn't think that I would ever be able to say. Y'all with me? I was able to say things to him. He was able to say things to me. And he was able to tell me things that he wanted me to pursue. Tell me things that I was capable of doing. Tell me, you can do this. I know you can do that. You're going to do this. You're going to do well. And that makes a difference in the grief process. But guess what? Everybody's not fortunate to have that. I'm grateful that I had that. And it did make the grief process easier. But there were still moments, and there are still moments, that I miss him tremendously. I have these moments where I'm like, okay, what now? What do I do now? And that is what has brought me to, and this has been a long time coming, because I wasn't sure what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it, but I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to share some things that worked for me, that helped me. So one of the things that I want to share with you guys about, I'm going to give you 5 nuggets, and you're welcome to drop your questions in the live chat, but you can also text your questions to 804-464-7815, and I'll try to address them. If we don't get time to cover everything, I'll come back live again next week and try to finish this up. So one of the things that is so key when dealing with grief is to feel what you feel, not what anybody expects. That's the first one. Feel what you feel. Not to expect anybody to tell you what you're supposed to feel, how you're supposed to feel, how you're supposed to act, how you're supposed to respond. When dealing with grief, your emotions are what matters. I remember the day that my husband passed. I will never forget this. I got a phone call, and the call was, they said, "Hello, this is such and such. Is this Prophetess DeAnna?" And I was like, "Yes, it is." And they said, "Oh my God, I know you're devastated." And I took a deep breath and I said, "No, I'm not." Because I refuse to let somebody tell me what I feel when that's not what I feel. I wasn't devastated because I had received some closure. We had talked about some things. We had dealt with some things. So I was expected to feel devastated, but I wasn't devastated. I wasn't lost. I wasn't without hope. I knew the things that he had said to me. So in my case, he had told us everything to do, down to the obituary, what to wear, everything. So when I got that call that said, "I know you're devastated," and listen, let me tell you what the person's response was. They said, "I know you're devastated. I'm so sorry." And I took a deep breath. I said, "No, I'm not." And I remember this person, like the phone just went silent. Because in that moment, I wasn't going to agree to something that I wasn't. But it gave me an opportunity to share with them why I wasn't devastated. No, I'm not devastated because we had that opportunity. I'm telling you, one of the most important things that you can do is feel what you feel. And some of the experiences that I had in loss with my brother and my mentor, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know what to feel. So I didn't know that it was okay to say, "I don't feel good today." I just felt like I had to get up and be there for everybody else. That's why it took me so long to grieve. And when I broke down, it was like a well that just would not end. And what I learned in the process was I was still trying to act as if they were here. Because I remember one of the things that I did in that process is I was used to my brother calling me every morning at 7 o'clock. And when I didn't get those 7 o'clock calls, I tried to create people to fill those voids. And so at 7 o'clock, I would call people and it wasn't the same. So I didn't stop and say, "I miss him. Okay, what do I do now?" I tried to fill the void with things that were not the same. I tried to build relationships and do the same things over and over again that I was doing. I tried to find people to mentor me and ask them questions. And when their answers were not the same, it left me devastated because I wouldn't allow myself to feel the sadness of the loss. I wouldn't allow myself to feel that it's okay to cry. I wouldn't allow myself to say, okay, my answer to everything was, "I'm fine." "Are you going to be all right?" And my answer was, "I have no other choice but to be all right." And that's not an answer because that's not the truth. In that day, I wasn't okay. Why wasn't it okay for me to say I'm okay? So it's very important that you take the time to feel what you feel. Don't worry about how somebody else is grieving. They don't feel it the way. Grief is not the same for every person. And it could be this, they could have lost the same person, but your experience with that person is completely different than somebody else's. So your emotions and your heart is not going to feel the same based on what they felt. So you can't judge. Well, if you got up and went back to work, it's okay. Maybe you needed that to stay busy. Somebody else might have stayed home in the bed. It's okay what you feel. Just make it your real feeling. Don't base your feelings off of, well, my friend lost her mom and she was laying down for 5 years. Okay, that may not be your story. And it's okay. Don't allow somebody to depict what you're supposed to feel, how you're supposed to feel it, and which leads into my next key. There is not a time limit on grief. Can I say that again? Stop thinking it's supposed to be over in a year. Stop thinking that, I'm going to give you 2 things about that. Stop thinking that it's supposed to be over in a year is number 1. Stop thinking that, I got this new person in my life, so the grief goes away. It doesn't. Anything can trigger your grief. Anytime. I lost a godmother when I probably was about maybe 10. I think I was about 10 years old when she passed away. And I had heard people talk about her many times. I was 14 years old. I will never forget this. I was 14 years old. And I was sitting in a room with a bunch of adults, and they were talking about her and all the things that she did and how she was. And I remember breaking down, crying, just crying. And I had talked about it a minute, and I'm thinking, I'm like, I remember going out the room, and they was like, she just, she's upset. But what triggered it 4 years later? Grief does not have a time limit. It could be a memory. It could be a thought. And all of it is not bad. But there's not a time limit on how long it should take you to get over it. There's not a time limit on how long you think about them. This person was a part of your life, so it doesn't go away. You could be riding down the street and pass an area that you rode in a car with this person, and it will trigger you. It may not be a moment of tears, but it may be a moment of laughter. But it's okay to feel that. For those that have lost spouses, let me say something to you, because this is one of the keys that someone gave me that I never will forget because it helped me. She said to me, I got a call because I was going to a place where I really missed my late husband. I mean, really, really missed him. And, but at the same time, I was moving in my life. I remember the things that he told me. I don't want you to be sad. Just be happy. Whatever you do, just be happy. Don't stop living and all of these things. And, I got a phone call one day, unexpectedly. And this is all the person said. She said, I want to say something to you. She said, finding love again is not a bad thing. She said, and it doesn't mean that you stop loving the person that passed away. Losing a spouse is not the same as divorcing a spouse. You don't get the option. You didn't get, when the person passed away, you didn't willfully say, I don't love them no more, so they gone. Poof. That's not what happened. It was their time to go, and they left. They passed away. It didn't stop the love. The love didn't go away. The person went away. So when somebody new comes in your life, it doesn't replace that love that you had for that person, but your heart heals and grows. Listen, I put this in the quote when I first started posting this. Grief never goes away. We just begin to carry it with more grace. It does get easier. Now, I'll be honest, when people kept saying, it's going to get better, I wanted to scream. I don't want to hear that no more. Don't tell me that it's going to get better. I don't care nothing about it getting better. Is it better now? No, it's not. And so that is something that I want people, especially if you lost your spouse, we didn't choose to say, I don't love you anymore. What happened was, it came a time that we had to go separate ways. It was their time to go. And when they left, your love didn't stop. Oh my God. Your love didn't stop. But that doesn't mean you can't love again. And I want that to be key to those, because you have people that have stopped living their lives. I know many instances of women and men who cannot go any farther. And that is not the quality of life that your loved one wanted for you. If they wanted you to succeed while they were alive, what would make you think they want you to stop thriving when they're gone? That was not their desire for you. And when we discover that and really rest in that, It changes the trajectory of how we grieve and how we heal, which is one of the points. I done jumped ahead of myself. One of the points is live on purpose. Live on purpose. Your loved one, be it your mother, your father, your brother. I can still hear my brother saying to me, I had two people in my life that called me little girl. My brother called me little girl and my husband called me little girl. And my brother, I can still hear him saying, little girl, you got it. You can do it. You can do anything. My husband would say, little girl, God got you. And I thrive on that because they don't have to be here for me to know the little girl can make it. God got the little girl. But if we live in the aspect of they gone, what am I going to do now? Listen, they didn't expect you to stop living. And that's a part of grief that I want people to really understand. When you get the perspective that your loved one loved you unconditionally, and then you have people that don't feel that. They love you. Oh, God bless you, Evangelist Boyd. Oh, God bless you. Let me tell you something. When you get the perspective that they love you in spite of, so they wanted the best for you. If they wanted you to be happy while they were in the land of the living, you don't think they want you to be living, loving, and happy and thriving, that they're not here? They didn't want you to stop living. They still want you to be happy. They don't want you to sit in even think about yourself. Think about if you was to leave this earth today. Would you want your kids to stop living and be sad all the time? Would you want your spouse to be sad all the time? Would you want your friends to be? No, you wouldn't. Because I can tell you, the people that I've lost, I can tell you now, if they could come and say something to me, they'd be like, girl, you better get up. Girl, you better keep moving. This is not the end. I know what you can accomplish. Why you laying down in this bed? I never had a moment when I lost my husband that I felt like getting under the cover and going away. I didn't never feel that because that's not what he gave me. That's not what he told me. Now, some of the things that I do now, I'm like, Lord, I sure wish he was here so I could say, hey, babe, what I supposed to do about this? But it has grown me up. It has taught me some things. So far I've covered 3 of our points. I don't want to hold y'all long. First point was, what was the first point? The first point was feel what you feel. Don't let anybody dictate to you what you're supposed to feel and how you're supposed to feel and when you're supposed to feel it. That's not anybody's place to do that for you. The second thing was grief has no time limit. I skipped and then came back, but the third one was to live on purpose. Live the happiness that they wanted you to live. Don't live like, oh my God, I can't believe this happening to me and that I don't know what to do. Yes, you do. You get up and live on purpose. You live the life that they expected you to live. All those things that they said, well, I wanted us to do this. Some of the things that I have done in my life have been because those that have passed away told me I could do it. And I wanted to see, well, can I really do that? When I lost my dad, man, let me tell y'all, my dad, I still long for those days when I get that call that say, hey, Skeeter Bop, what you doing? Nobody called me Skeeter Bop but my dad. Those that know me know I like to eat a whole lot. I like food. I get up some days and be like, I was used to my dad calling me first thing in the morning to tell me at 8 o'clock in the morning what he planned on cooking tomorrow for dinner. Because that's what he liked to do. And so sometimes I'll find myself in the kitchen cooking something that I really don't want. But I'd be like, man, if my dad was alive, he'd be cooking this right here, so I'll cook it. You have to find those moments that put a smile on your face and doesn't always bring sadness of loneliness. One of the 2 of the other points, I'm gonna jump ahead. I want to hold that one for last. How about this one? Create new normals. Y'all hear me? Create new normals. When I lost my brother and my mentor, I didn't know how to do that. So what I did was I got busy talking about building legacy and creating this, but I was just doing the things that I knew that they had not accomplished or they wanted to do and didn't get the opportunity to do. But what I really took the time to do when I lost my dad, when I lost some of my other friends in the process, because I skipped a lot of people because of some things that I'm going to write about. What I did was I started creating new normals. One thing that people knew about me and Marcel is on Sundays after church, we got in the car. We went to Dairy Queen, we got ice cream, and we drove around. If we didn't get ice cream, we drove all the way to Alexandria to get something to drink just to drive back to Richmond. And now who am I going to get in the car and drive with? Who am I going to have these moments of laughter with? First of all, who am I going to talk to all day? Yes, me and Marcel, while he was at work, people always wonder, why did he always have Bluetooth? Because I was always in his ear talking. Even while he was building, I could hear the hammer, I could hear the nail, because I was always in his ear talking. I knew what went on throughout his day because we talked all the time. We just like talking to each other. How do you go from talking to somebody from the time they leave the house, you call them on the phone, and y'all talking on the phone all day, you drop off the call, get back on the call, drop off the call, till they come back in the door, you're talking. How do you create a new normal in that? When that's what you've been used to doing for so many years. Let me tell you how you be intentional. I can't call Marcel all day because Marcel is no longer here. And can I say this to you, if you have lost somebody? Listen to this. They're not coming back. That's a hard reality, but it's something that has to be said. When we start living like, I know they're not coming back. And it's nothing that I can do about that, but I have to keep living. I had to learn how to find other things to do with my time. I had to find, okay, I can't talk to him all day. And one thing I will tell you, I found every set of Bluetooth he had, every AirPod, everything. I had them all. And I kept them for a little while. Then I started getting rid of them. I got about 2 now, but I keep them because they mine. But let me tell you, I learned how to call other people. I didn't just sit in the house. I took my laptop and I went and sit in the library and typed about nothing. Or I didn't even go I would go in the library and sit there and just watch people. I would go and talk to people. I've never had a problem going out by myself to go eat, go to the movies. I started doing things that I used to do. I changed my environment. Why would I still, you don't throw your loved ones away, but you make the adjustments that you need for you. Because listen, when you have grief and you have loss, you cannot sit and look at the past all day long. You cannot do that. You can't hold on to material things that you think, if I got this is going to make me be with them longer. I'll tell you, sometimes I think about my dad and I'll ask my mom to cook something and she is just convinced. She's on here, so she's going to talk about me later. She is convinced that hers tastes just like my dad. No, it doesn't. It's not the same. But guess what? I enjoy the fact that she did it. And I'm like, okay, here's a new quality of life. You create new normals. You make the adjustment. You go to the movies by yourself. You find new friends. Listen, if all of your friends were connected to you and your loved one, you don't get rid of those friends, but you find some people that you can create something for you that's not attached to everything from the past. One of the first things that I did, and it's so funny now that I think about it, everybody knows me. I love sunflowers. Love them, love them, love them, love them, love them. Marcel was not the kind of man that you could put sunflowers in no bedroom, all over the room. Not going to happen. So I think it was about maybe a couple of days after he passed, a week after he passed, I went and ordered this bedroom set. Everything was sunflowers. From the spread, I ordered towels to match to go in my bathroom and all this sunflower stuff. Because what he said was, just be happy. There's no way I would put sunflowers in a room with him. But I had to create a space that was healthy for me. I didn't get rid of all my comforters that we had, but I had to create a space that made me at peace. So it may not look the same. It may not look like what you're familiar with. But is it something that can bring you joy? Is it something that can bring you to a level of peace that you're able to move forward in some things in your life? And that's what creating new normals look like. It looks like building new relationships. It looks like building new friendships. It looks like going different places that you've never been before. No, I never had to worry about little things. It was just so amazing, things that I started doing again that I just didn't used to do anymore because I didn't have to do them. And it created a safer environment for me. It made me more aware of what I was capable of doing and what I wasn't capable of doing. And those things that, for those that lost loved ones that are me and your father, your brother, your spouse, that was the man of the family, you're capable of doing some of that stuff. You just never had to do it. I like being a damsel in distress. That's why I'm not going to be single forever. Because I don't like doing for me. I like somebody else to do it for me. That's just the plug, you know. I'm just not. Don't y'all be shocked when y'all be like, oh my God, she got married again. My late husband told me, get married again. Live your life. And sometimes you say, I don't know if that's something that my loved one would have wanted for me. If they say be happy, you know what makes you happy. If they say, one of the things my brother always told me, my late husband, my dad, you smart, you ought to go back to school and finish school. I had no desire to do that. No desire whatsoever. But when I did it, I was so proud when I received my doctorate because it was something that I didn't think I was capable of doing, but I could hear them saying, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And I did it. And what does that look like for me? It's just a new normal for me, but I was able to do it. If you've lost children, I haven't lost children. That's not my story, but listen to this. If you've lost children, your children don't want you to stop living. They did not want you to stop. They saw you as their mother. They saw you as their father, and they expect you were a superhero then. So why can't you continue to be a superhero? And that's the thing. We have to know that our loved ones, I can't drive this home enough, they loved us enough. They gave us everything that they had. Even those that didn't experience that kind of relationship, and you may have unresolved trauma in your loss because you didn't get to say what you needed to say. You didn't know how they felt about you. Come to a place of peace with that within yourself. I didn't get to say to them, I don't really know if they love me. I don't know if they ever forgave me. Listen, you got to come to a place of peace with that. Because that's not a conversation that you're going to be able to have with them. But God is so gracious that, look, the preacher in me done came out. Yep, it's there. Listen, God is so gracious that there will be random conversations that you'll have with family members or friends that'll tell you something that you've been looking for an answer for, and it'll settle your spirit about, did they love me? Did they know I forgave them? We cannot live in a place of fear to continue to live because of grief. I'm going to tell you, before I touch this last one, I want to share this. When you experience grief and a loss that is sudden and unexpected, it throws you in a place. Me and my youngest brother talk about this all the time. It throws you in a place where you are fearful, especially if you got a phone call in the middle of the night or you are fearful to answer the phone at night. If you got a call early in the morning from a family member, you get afraid to answer. Y'all ain't talking. Maybe it's just me. It took me a couple years to want to answer the phone in the middle of the night when I got a call, because that's how I received the call about my brother here recently. And then let me say this. You have to be wise and not relate everything to one situation. Many of you know I just had a kidney transplant. And in having the kidney transplant, I had my kidney transplant. I think I had been home about maybe 10 days, 9 or 10 days. And I got a call. My mother and I got a call in the middle of the night. And my brother passed away. This was in June. No, it was in July. This past July. I had just literally got out of the hospital from having a kidney transplant. Had just talked to my brother the day before. Me and my mom was talking about him before we got the phone call. And I went to go get in the bed. And the next thing I know, we was getting a call saying that he passed away. So for me, that was like, you got to be kidding me. I get a transplant. He had decided he was going to get the transplant. And you going to tell me that he going to die? Less than 10 days? What in the world? So that was just in July. But let me go back to my brother that passed, my first brother that passed. I told y'all, I had just had a heart attack and found out that I had kidney cancer. And 9 days later, I got a call in the middle of the night that my brother passed. So I dealt with the fear of every time I get sick. Come on, y'all better be honest. Every time it's springtime, somebody die. Come on, listen. Man, every time we go on family vacation, somebody die. Because that's what happens to us. It triggers us to associate things with death. And we become afraid. Last, December. In November, I had been home from the hospital, recovered. I got the call that my husband's grandmother, who was my grandmother too, she passed away. It took the wind out of me. Not because I didn't expect her to pass, because she was older, she was 90. But the fact that, God, I'm just recovering and somebody else? What is that? And I had to reprogram my mind that my sickness, this is a real life conversation. My sickness has nothing to do with people passing. Did y'all hear me? Every time I lose a job, I know somebody about to die. That's the stuff that get planted in our minds about death. And we position ourselves and prepare ourselves for it because we associate trauma with when we have one traumatic experience. The next time we have something else that's similar to that, we say, "Oh, this gonna happen now." That's in anything in our life, but it definitely applies when it comes to loss. How many of y'all? And I'm gonna bust somebody's bubble. Well, you know, death's come in 3. That ain't true. Death come when God says it's gonna come. We say that. We anticipate that, and guess what? It happens. We say it, we anticipate. Well, death's always come in 3, so we know who coming next. You done set a whole stage for somebody to go away from here that wasn't supposed to go there. So, okay, this is my last one, and then I'm going to open it up for a couple of questions and check the line. The last one is this. Get some help. Go and talk to somebody. Every answer is not at your church. Yep, that's what I said. Every answer is not in your friend that think they a therapist. You need some professional therapy and help to process what's happening to you, what your mind is going through, what your body is going through. Because when you don't grieve properly, it affects your body. Y'all better hear me. When I went through that stage with my brother and my mentor, it was, they both passed in 2017. In 2018, by 2018, I had another heart attack and an open heart surgery. And the doctor said, it's like your heart been broken physically. Cause it was emotionally broken and it manifested in my body. And when I went through the surgeries, it took me so long to heal because I had all this unresolved stuff going on in me, trauma and emotions that I hadn't dealt with from the grief. So you got to take the time to get you some professional help. There's nothing wrong with it. Even if they say, hey, you're in a place of depression, let me give you some medicine just to balance you out for a little while. Because some people handle things differently. It depends on what you've been through in your life. Your loss of a loved one could trigger something from your past that had nothing to do with death, but it could be something else. And if you don't get the help that you need, guess what? It just prolongs and adds something else to it and adds something else to it. And here you are 6 years later, like, what's going on with me? What's going on with me? What's going on? Why am I having these moments? Why am I having these moments of anxiety out of nowhere? Because it's unresolved. Unresolved trauma, unresolved grief that has to be addressed. Listen, grief is not an easy process. I still grieve, but I try to grieve healthily. And my grief doesn't always look like crying. My grief looks like sometimes I'm just like, God, where can I put my heart? Where can I rest my heart? I don't have a husband anymore, so I have to make all these decisions sometimes by myself. Where's my safe place to rest my heart? Do you know that's a form of grief? Because you're longing for what's familiar. You're longing for somebody to help you because you've had somebody there to help you make decisions. Another form of grief is eat. Yeah, I know y'all like, girl, don't touch that. Eating to fill voids, to fill empty places. That's not going to help. That's going to make situations. You avoid people. Oh, I don't feel like talking. That's a sign that you're going into depression. I don't feel like talking. I don't really want to be around nobody. Well, I didn't really like being around people anyway. That was something that I did because my mom did it. That's not true. That's just your way of avoiding people. Come on. Yes, a place to rest your heart. I've been saying that for like the last 6 months, which is how I kind of know that it's time for me to try to get my life together. Because I know now that I need a place to rest my heart. Because sometimes when you've had loved ones that's been there for you, and I'm not just talking about a spouse, I'm talking about a mom, a sibling. Sibling losses are hard. When you lose parents, that's hard. But it's something about those sibling losses because you expect them to be there when mom and daddy ain't there. And you can't turn, and you don't have that place to rest your heart. With a spouse, you don't have that place to rest your heart because you don't realize just in friendships, when you lose friends to death, if they were the person that you talked to all the time, that was your place that you rested your heart. And when you're trying to find it, it's hard to trust people because you're familiar with that person. But hey, this is a whole nother ball game right here. I don't know you like that to give you my intimate, to give you mine. I got to work my way up to it. And all of that plays a part in your level of how you function in your grief. When you open yourself up to continue to live, you can build new relationships. You can reconcile old relationships. Hear me when I say, one of the things that I have learned in this last, I think it's been 2 years now that Marcella's been gone. But in these last 2 years, I have reconciled more relationships. Not that he hindered my relationships, because he never did. But when you have a different lifestyle, like they always say, single people don't hang with married people, whatever. Well, some of my friends were single. So we didn't do a lot of hanging out. Now I'm single. So we do some hanging out. I got my married friends, and they there for me. But there are some things that I have to put a distance because I'm single now. I don't want to look at my friends all hugged up and booed up, and I ain't booed up. Come on, I'm 49 years old. I want to be booed up too. So I don't want to experience that. So I have to create new narrative. That's another place of creating those new normals. If you used to be in a couple and y'all coupled out, don't put yourself in that environment because that's going to tear your heart up. That is going to tear your heart up because you're like, but what about me? And especially if you're not ready to move into another relationship, it puts you back to a place where you're longing for the love of the spouse that you lost and they're not coming back. And now you're like, oh my God, what do I do? Oh, I'm so sad. I'm so sad. Because you're not ready to move on, but you're not ready to let go. And now you're in an environment with couples and you by yourself. What do you do with that? All of that is grief. All of that is dealing with the grief. It's creating new narratives. It's going to talk to somebody. Yeah, you go talk to somebody. I got some friends that I talk to that's married, and I tell them, hey, y'all know what I was like. I miss being booed up. I miss that. So pray for me that God do what he's going to do. But then I have my other friends, and sometimes I be like, girl, It feels so good to be hanging out for no reason. And I've never not been able to hang out, but it's a different thing when you're single than when you're married. Same thing with my brothers. Man, losing my brothers was like, whew. But I'll tell you something. It developed closer relationships with my other two brothers that I still have here. I value those relationships. They're not the same, but I value them. But it also introduced me to new brothers, to new siblings, because I had men in my life that I didn't really have to really lean on because I had people. And like, for example, I'd use one person. My husband had a best friend, and when I text him, I'd be like, bruh, such and such, such and such. And I know he'd be like, she is just a mess. But I developed other relationships that helped me not to miss him as much, because when I had these conversations with these people, they knew how he would respond. So sometimes they responded like he would respond. You know, you ain't supposed to do that. Well, you could do that. That's awesome. I know you could do that. I've been watching you do such, such, such. You got that. You need those people. They may not even understand why you need them, but you understand why you need them. Because you need that sound, you need that voice, you need that love that continues to help you to grow. So don't be ashamed if you need help. Don't be ashamed to go to the doctor. Don't be ashamed to schedule a doctor's appointment. Hey, call me. I got a list of therapists for men and women, because I believe in therapy. I still go see the therapist. If I can't go out, I'd be like, hey, can we have a phone call? Because you need that. We are not, listen, I don't care if you're in the church. I don't care if you're not in the church. We are not superheroes. We have real life emotions, real life situations, and life is going to be life every day. Whether you grieving or not, life is going to be life, and you're going to still have to get up and do what you got to do. But in the process, these are just some keys to help you along the way. So listen, I'm going to give y'all these 5 that I gave again, and then I'll open it up for a couple of questions if I can, as fast as I can read them on here, and then I'll try to go over and look at the text message. But the first one is, feel what you feel. The second one is, there's no time limit to grief. How long it should take you, what it should look like, none of those things. The third one is, talk to somebody. If you need counseling, talk to somebody. It is okay. The fourth one is to, wait a minute, what was my fourth one? Oh, the fourth one is to live on purpose. Live the life that you know your loved one wanted you to live. Be that person. They didn't expect you to stop living. Take the time to be that person. And the last one is to create new normals. Life is not the same, so why should you act like it's the same? Create new normals for yourself. And those new normals need to consist of things that make you happy. The best thing that I ever heard was when Marcel said to me, all I want you to do is just be happy. He said, if you want to preach, preach. If you don't want to run the church, don't run the church. If you want to do this, he said, but stay saved. He said, but get this, just be happy. And if you can take that moment and say, I'm going to live because this is the life that I know. My loved one didn't want me to be sad. They didn't want me running around here under the cover all day and got to take medicine because I can't get my thoughts together. You got to live on purpose, and you got to just be happy. If they wanted you to, I can't say this enough. If they wanted you to be happy while they were here, what would make you think they don't want you to be happy while they gone? Final thought. Final thought. I have learned that in this grief process, people will try to give you the best advice that they can. They don't mean any harm. They just saying what they think you need to hear, what you need to feel, and how they went through it. Nobody's grief is the same. You might have lost your mom and I lost my mom, but it's not the same. We could have had the same mom. Me and my brothers had the same siblings. Our experience of grief and losing our oldest brother is not the same. He was our brother. We both had the same brother. All of us had the same brother. It wasn't the same. The brother that we just lost in July, it's not the same. So you got to deal with your grief, how you deal with it, not how people think you should deal with it. It's not the same. Here's my last thought. And I can't say it enough, but I have to say this. Our loved ones are not coming back. So we do not need to stay in a place that like they're coming back. And if we know they're not coming back and we come to terms with that, it can help us move forward. How am I going to live without them? What am I going to do? You plan it out. I didn't know what I was going to do when I couldn't get them phone calls no more. So you know what I started doing? One of the things that I did, I said, okay, if I know somebody is going through, this is going to be my time to call them. I did all kinds of stuff to help myself to move past where I was. But I'm so grateful. Hey, Tavares, I just finished talking about you. I'm so grateful that what I've gone through, because it has allowed me to be able to help other people. I get calls all the time like, God, you are the strongest person I know. No, I'm not. I'm not that strong. I'm strong in God, and I trust God, and it's been my strength that He has helped me through this and allowed me to help other people. My only desire is to make sure that the things that I have gone through, I haven't gone through them in vain, and that I can help somebody else make it through it. So I'm going to open up. If you have some questions, you're welcome to type them in. I'm going to see if I can try to check the text messages to see if anybody sent questions there. I hope it doesn't throw the screen off, but in the process it does. Maybe I need to do that later so I don't throw it. But if anybody has questions, they're welcome to drop their questions in the group. I thank you all for supporting tonight. Let me know if y'all want me to do this again, because it's a whole lot I can talk about. I'm working on the book. I'm putting it out there. The book will be done by the end of March. It is called Surviving the Trauma of Grief. Surviving the Trauma of Grief. I am putting it out there. I will be finished by the end of March. Surviving the Trauma of Grief. I'm not an expert on grief, but I know that some of the things that I have experienced and have been through, yeah, Ty, you pushed me into doing that. I'll be finished by March. With help. It's not going to be no book about what grief is. It's going to be real life, how to get through it from day to day. Because that's what you need. You don't need nobody to explain what grief is, because I can't explain to you what your grief is like, but I can tell you some tools to help you get through it. So I'm excited about that. Listen, I am so excited. If y'all want me to do this again, let me know. Put a yes, and I'll come back maybe in 2 weeks and do it again with some other topics about grief. And what I'll do is I'll put it out there, some questions, and give you space to help you give me the questions, and then I'll work on the questions and talk about them when we come in. Okay, let me see. How can you be a believer but still be angry with God for taking it? Oh my God, that is a good question right there. Listen, and I'm going to be really honest and answer that question for you. Saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost, preaching on Sunday morning, the whole shebang. And when I got that call that my brother was unresponsive, I went in my prayer room and I was laying on the floor and I was praying and calling on Jesus. And I was saying, God, not my brother, in the name of Jesus, he gone here. I don't know what unresponsive means, but not my brother. Let me tell you something. I was laying on the floor and I was praying, and all of a sudden a stillness came in the room. And when the stillness came in the room, I knew he was gone. I knew it. It wasn't no doubt in my mind. I knew it. And a few minutes later, my dad called. And my dad said he didn't make it. And I could hear my mom in the background. And I got up. I said, okay. And I got up off the floor. And I thought I was okay. And I went in that bedroom where my husband was. And I said to him, how God gonna do this to me? These are my exact words. You gonna give me a heart attack and give me kidney cancer and take my brother in 10 days? How you gonna do that to me? And let me tell you something. That was my honest response. That's how I felt. How? Why? I'm saved. I'm a believer. I'm doing everything you say and do. And then 3 months later, you gonna take my pastor who's supposed to help me through the process? It happens. We are real life people. Those are real life emotions, and you are angry. But you can't stay angry. You have to understand, the first thing you have to do is understand that life is but a vapor. It could have been one of us. We don't know the prayers. Let me tell you something that I always say. We don't know the prayers that our loved ones prayed. We don't know what the conversations are they had with God about where they were in their life. We honestly do not know what they said to God. Now, the fortunate thing for me with Marcel was I know what he said because he told me. He told us don't pray against his will. He told us I'll be the sacrifice for my family. If this going to draw my family to God, if this going to allow people to see a miracle, I'll do it. And I said to him, that's the most selfish thing you have ever said. What about me? He said, you're going to be saved, but I need to know other people going to be saved. So when it comes down to that, it's nothing wrong with having their feelings. The Bible says be angry, but sin not. You can be angry about it, but you got to process that anger because we have no idea. I'm telling you, I have lost loved ones that I had conversations with the day before, and they said, this is the closest I ever felt to God, and this the most that and next thing I know, they was gone, and I'm like, wait a minute, they just said this the close. And I say this to people in all honesty all the time. When people say stuff like that to me and they pass away, I said, God must have knew they wasn't going to be able to hold on to that for long, so he took them while they was in a good place with him. That's the only thing I can do to make sense of it. That's the only thing that I can do to make sense of it. We going to feel something. You gonna feel something. And you can be saved and feel angry. Don't you feel angry when you save and you feel angry when somebody cut you off on the road? I know I do. You save and you feel angry when somebody talks to you any kind of way. It's not contingent on death. It's contingent on our emotions and how we manage them and what we do with them. And so, yeah, you can be saved and feel anything you want to feel, but you can't see it in it, but you can feel it. And then you have to be able to get up and keep living. Yep, acknowledge your emotions and your feel. That's it. That's the first one. Feel what you feel. That's what I said. Feel what you feel. If you feel angry, be angry. But you can't stay there. The anger is a feeling. If you feel sad, be sad. And don't let people tell you, you should be over that by now. No. Take the time that you need. That's why you need to go to counseling. Because the counselor's going to help you. Feel what you feel, even when you don't know what you feel. Because when I first went to counseling, I thought I was going to counseling about my dad. None of my dad's stuff came up. It was about my brother, my mentor, and this and that. And that was 3 years earlier. So absolutely, absolutely. Any more questions, any more thoughts? I'm not going to touch the questions in the thing because I'm scared it's going to knock everything off. But I will go and read them. And if there are questions in there, I will either contact you directly or I'll bring those questions back when I come back in 2 weeks. So are we in agreement that I'm going to do this again in 2 weeks? Y'all let me know, because y'all know I'll skip out and find something else to do. But I plan on doing this again in 2 weeks. I'll come back and we'll talk more about grief, and I'll be working on the book and doing all of that. So I love you guys. I appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time to sit with me on tonight. Please take the time. If you know somebody that missed this tonight, send this to them. Send them the link. Allow them the opportunity to get the healing that they need and what they need to grow and to move forward. We are going to take our time and walk through this grief process, not just because it's the holidays, but because we got to live our life even when it's not a holiday. So I love you guys. Have a great and phenomenal evening, the rest of your evening. Thank you for hanging with me tonight. This is Dr. DeAnna Morris, Life Seeds, Coaching and Developing. Let's have a real conversation about grief. Love you guys. Have a great evening. God bless.